Hey, it's Emilio Despirito, and we're here today at our headquarters in East Greenwich, Rhode Island. This is Engel Völkers, and I'm really happy to introduce to you Tatiana Pimentel, and she is a new advisor with us here at Engel Völkers. Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So it's great to have you here, Tatiana. I enjoyed our first few meetings when we first met, and I knew you'd be a perfect fit at Engel Völkers. So again, thank you for joining, and I'm excited at the opportunity to get to meet you and I've already met you, but get to know you better and learn more about you and share with our listeners everything they should know about Tatiana.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Absolutely. How long have you been in real estate for?
So this will be my 5th year in real estate.
5 years. So you're a seasoned pro. And one of the things that I thought was really great about what you do is you have a specialty in real estate. And you want to tell us about your specialty?
Yeah, absolutely. So real estate, when I jumped into it, I, for whatever reason, ended up shifting into the investment space through my first few buyers. Mm-hmm. That led me to be curious about how I could best represent them. Mm-hmm. So that just kind of spiraled into almost a niche, really, of really understanding and working, particularly in that space.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, that's such Rhode Island has such a large inventory of, and maybe not right now active for sale, but altogether such a large housing stock of multifamily homes. Mm-hmm. And, I know a lot of investors, they like the multifamily homes because it's, you have 3, 4, 5, 7 units under one roof. That's only one roof you're paying for, one foundation. It makes more sense. It's all there. It's easy to manage. What about that? Like, what about working with investors is rewarding, fulfilling? What do you like most about that?
I would have to say what it actually allows people to do. It really gives them, through passive income, the ability to pursue the hobbies, the things, and careers that they're really passionate about. Mm-hmm. And just seeing that with, my first few buyers, and it just really kind of sparks something where it just makes me super happy to know that I'm a piece of that person who helped you leverage an asset that can allow someone to do those things in life. That's
awesome. Yeah, well said. As you're saying that it allows people to do hobbies and what they want and stuff, I'm thinking about one of my friends who owns about 100 units. He's 31 years old, and it's daily. I swear, he's sending me pictures of himself out on the jet skis, on the water. He's traveling from, East Greenwich to Fall River on his jet skis, four-wheeling. He works hard, but he also plays hard. He's able to do this and able to afford all these toys and do all this stuff because, he took the chance and started ultimately with an agent back in the day and bought his first property. Do you have any stories of any of your clients that you've worked with, say 5 years ago, they bought their first or second, property, and now all of a sudden they own a whole portfolio?
So I have a few different stories. So the first one I'll say is more my first buyer. He was not even 21 years old. He closed, he was 20 years old on the property. And within a few months, he actually left a place that he wasn't really happy at and started his own company. To this day, he's expanded in different markets. So that to me is a huge, to see that, right? To see what it's able to do was such a great kind of story. The other is maybe not necessarily a ton of units right after, back to back within 5 years. But I've had, young couples where they've acquired, the boyfriend acquired, 4 units. And then, 6, 7, 8 months later, the girlfriend acquired another 4 units. So
that's awesome.
Combined, they're, at 8 units. And those are great stories because I can see how it's impacting. Instead of holiday cards, I get before and after pictures, which is
cool.
Awesome. We're hey, this is our new project.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of stories that really make it all worth it.
Yeah, it's touching. I mean, anytime anybody takes time to send you something in the mail, is when you get it, it's it's exciting.
Yeah,
it's different.
For sure.
It's way different than an email. I like that. And the fact that they thought of you after the sale, it's not so common, you know what I mean? Because the realtor's usually there for the sale. And granted, there's some of us that are very friendly with our clients and whatnot, but some in the industry look at it as transactional. So for the fact of the matter, you have people hitting you up after the fact. It shows what kind of service you give them and how friendly you are with your clients. Well, yeah. It's amazing. How about this? What like drove you initially to get into real estate? Because you were in the financial world prior to this, right?
I was in retail management for about 15 years.
Do you have a financial background too?
So I have an accounting degree.
That's it. That's
Yes.
right. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So accounting, we'll get to retail in a second, but so I think the accounting and that analytical side of your brain, I think that goes really well with why you're so good at working with investors, going over the P&Ls, going over all of that. I mean, it makes a ton of sense why you'd work with investors.
Absolutely.
Would you agree?
I totally. I think it's, and it's funny because initially when I had finished school, I was still working I had worked for Bob's Discount Furniture for many years. And I started with them when I was 18 years old. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I really enjoyed when the managers were kind of going over like the profit and loss and all these other things. So
awesome.
That was my avenue into accounting. But then I didn't go and do anything specifically in that. It wasn't until these past few years where the P&Ls and all that other stuff kind of came back into play.
So isn't that funny how that works?
How the world just kind of, how it all works out.
Yeah. Wow. It's so cool that you have that background though. And then so I know Bob's like played a big part in, learning about selling and learning about sales and learning about customer service and all of that stuff. And you really enjoyed it. You're really good at it too. Didn't you? Well, no, I think you're welcome. But didn't you I thought you sold more than, didn't you hold beat people out in sales over there or something? Did you tell me a story about that?
Yeah. So one of the areas I was really well known for, we sold, there was insurance plans, right, on the furniture.
Yeah.
And that was a very big piece, for the company, but also for, management team to really kind of stay on top of that. And that was, my niche within the company. Looking back at it, I really focused on the area that made the most impact. For the store, for the bottom line. So being able to focus on that, and I was mostly in management, so I was the team leader. So trying to be able to share those bits of information and, how you have a conversation with a client, how do you provide the value or allow them to see why something like this makes sense. That was my, specialty, at the company for sure.
Wow, that's awesome. You're very business focused. I think that's huge too. I mean, so all these skills, it makes sense because as someone who works with some investors and whatnot myself, I know that type of buyer, especially the polished ones, they want somebody that knows the ins and outs and can explain to them not only the P&L and how all of that works, but connect them with a property management company that can take care of their properties. If they need, reputable contractors or somebody to help write the loan for you, you've got that whole network behind you supporting you and your clients to make sure that transaction is as seamless as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, super important. So where do you see your career going? Say a few years down the road, where do you see, you joined Engel Völkers. I know that working with investors is a huge part of what you're doing and what you want to do. Where do you see things going for yourself a few years from now?
That's a good question. I feel like sometimes we have a vision of what the next few years might look like and things shift.
Oh, that's life.
Totally. I think for me, one of the things I want to focus on is I really enjoy the education piece of real estate.
Likewise, that's awesome.
Because if you teach someone how to be able to analyze a property and continue to build wealth for themselves, then they're always going to think of me. They're always going to think of their experience. And to me, that speaks volume. So I don't know where that course is going to take me. I would like to say that it would be somewhere with, in the education space, whether that's perhaps mentoring other advisors.
We've got spots here for that professional development. Yeah, you'd be great at that.
I think that's always, kind of come through in anything that I do, even though I didn't think that was, my husband always said I was an educator at heart. I should have been a teacher. And I feel like in every role, I do that without having to necessarily be in front of a classroom. So finding a way to, find, combine the both.
That's awesome.
Both of them.
Well, in real estate and in business, your classroom is out in the field. This is our class. Everything we do is literally, we're in the class all the time. We're always learning. Doctors are too. That's why it's called a practice, right? And, it's one of those things where there's always something new that presents itself. There's always a new challenge. There's always a new puzzle to solve. and having the knowledge and the background, and being able to connect the pieces of the puzzle, I think is something that you do extremely well in that investment arena where so few advisors do. And you've got that track record. So it's really big. And I really want our listeners to know how important it is when you're going and acquiring buildings, and you're looking to build long-term wealth, how important it is to have the right guidance along that process. Because I've seen some people go in with the wrong people, the wrong advice, and go out broke. While I've seen some other people go in and get the right advice and whatnot and do extremely well for themselves. So I feel like you're the type of person, Tatiana, where if something wasn't right for someone, you'd probably talk them out of it. Would you agree?
1,000%.
Yeah.
I've had to have conversations. In fact, one of the things I do with all the investors, or even just a client in general, doesn't matter what they're purchasing, is really get a deep understanding as to the why of their purchase. Why a single family in this neighborhood? Why a multifamily? What is it going to do for you and your family? And what that allows me to do is, in the moments where they're maybe shifting their direction, I can refocus them. I said, we talked about this, right? Well, what's changed? So being able to have those tough conversations, uncomfortable ones, I think is super important too.
So Tatiana, you're from Rhode Island originally?
I'm from New Jersey, actually.
New Jersey. Okay. What part of New Jersey?
I grew up in Paterson, New Jersey. And then for the last 7 years prior to coming here, I was in Bergen County.
Okay, cool. Sweet. That's right. You did tell me that. And so now you live here in Rhode Island, and you have a husband, you have 2 daughters.
Yes.
And some fur babies, right?
And some fur babies, yeah.
I know family is very important to you, and we admire that. We're a family-run business as well, and totally get that. And I think that, let me ask you something. When you're looking at investors and whatnot, when you're looking at their overall goal, I'm sure in the back of your head, when they have families or whatnot, you probably realize that type of client may not want to take the kind of risks that, say, a single 25-year-old, might want to take. So does that ever kind of go into your guidance with them? Do you ever ask them what's your appetite for risk? Do you ever have those kinds of conversations with your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. Because for every investor is going to be totally different. I've had some where, the same opportunities presented to someone else who maybe doesn't at the moment have the family, element, and they see the value in it because it's not as risky for them.
Yeah.
So absolutely getting an understanding of what that actually looks like just helps me really gauge what I can present to the clients. And if it is something that I'm like, well, let's look at it this way, that can be something, also having that conversation. And, especially if they have younger children and they have time, to allow things to just take its course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can be, I always whenever, after having a kid, my whole outlook on everything changed, right? Because you see things from a parent's eyes, and things really, really change. And you just kind of, you understand where people are coming from, and there's just this extra sense in looking out for people, and you always look out for their best interest. But when you know that they have a family to support, if they're ready to make a foolish decision or something, it's just so much easier to be you can't risk this, hold off, let's do something else. So I thought I'd mention that, because also I think taking an empathetic approach at what we do is so darn important. It is. The other thing I wanted to mention is that you started a group, and I know you're really passionate about investing and about helping other women out, doing this and getting them involved and getting more women out there. Can you explain that group? What's the name of it?
Yeah, it's a Women Investors and Meetup Group in Rhode Island. Okay,
great. And who's welcome to this?
So it's all women, right? So real estate is a big component of it, but it's really for anyone who has a business mindset, wants to learn, wants to grow. We have different speakers come in. It's not always about real estate investments and financial goals, because everything in life is a balance, right? And finding a place where you're around like-minded people that understand that is important. So that's who that group is intended for.
Cool. All right. Awesome. So as a co-host, so is it like when they walk in, so you have speakers? So if you're co-hosting it, you're kind of presenting the speaker, kind of presenting the itinerary, right? You're really the host.
Correct. Yes, I'm co-hosting this with a friend of mine.
Okay.
Her name is Desi Kababe.
Desi, okay.
Yeah, and I actually met her through the Rhode Island Real Estate Investor Group.
Oh yeah, the one that meets at Crown Plaza?
Yes. Yeah.
That's a great group.
That's where everything started for me,
Yeah.
and seeking out some information for my buyers who wanted multis, and my career, in this niche just kind of sparked from there. And I met Desi actually in 2018 through the group. So it's been something that's been burning to take action on, and we finally said, now is the time. So we did it.
Cool. Awesome. Good stuff. And where do you see that group going? Like, where do you see that ending up? How many people would you like to be, in there? Do you want to keep it kind of like an intimate crowd, or do you want it to get it huge?
I want it to be, I've been to many networking events, and I didn't want it to just be another networking event. So finding the right fit. So not too clear on what that looks like. As I said, just kind of started off. What I do want to make sure is that it's a place for women to contribute to each other, collaborate on different projects, or just help each other out. And, like right now, for example, we're small enough where we have like a group communication. So everyone's kind of bouncing ideas off each other, learning from each other. We're providing even in there, flips, like before and after. I mean, so much great stuff that I want it to just be of value. So if that means that it's going to expand to something and the numbers are crazy, then maybe that's what I'm doing in 5 years. Who knows?
Cool. Very cool. But with all the right people and with all the right, the players involved, I think networking is so important to what we do. And having, cheerleaders behind us and with us, and, people constantly pushing us to become better at anything that we do, I think is so vital. I think that's awesome that you put together a group like that. And, we're really excited to have you here and watch your career grow. I think you're very talented at what you do, and we appreciate it. And welcome aboard.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And if you want to learn more about Tatiana, you can go ahead and check her out at tatianapimentel.evrealestate.com. Go ahead, reach out to her there, and she can help you buy or sell your next investment property.